my fellow Americans? Are we reaping our harvest of greed? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
Good morning. Welcome to Update Fridays. This is CJ Holmes, your host for this show and founder of Homeowners for Justice. We've got a whole lot of stuff packed in today. They're coming in at the last minute, so bear with us. Anyway, there's so many articles, so much good news, bad news. And one of the dilemmas that we all face, and I talk about it frequently, and I know everyone watching is facing this at many levels, and that is regardless of the exposure, it seems like we can't stop the machine. So we're going to look at things people are doing to help stop the machine. We've got some cool guests on. We've got some really interesting news. So I want to start first by sharing with you another survey. We looked at Gallup yesterday for real estate and that kind of information. Let's take a look at what the Pew survey says. What a shock. 3/4 of the people don't trust the government. And I know that's not real news, but I'd like to get this into the live stream to be sure that we have it on the record.
A new survey from the Pew Research Center finds the nation increasingly distrustful of the federal government. The findings released today show that about 1/4 of Americans trust government to do the right thing, always or most of the time. A whopping 73% do not. And those surveyed blame members of Congress. Asked if the political system can work, 56% responded that lawmakers are the problem, and 32% disagreed. To put this in historical perspective, we are now joined by Andrew Kohut of the Pew Research Center. Andy Kohut, thank you for being with us again.
Happy to be with you, Judy.
So, Andy, this survey found that not only do people not have a high regard for the federal government, you found that a majority think the federal government actually threatens their personal rights.
Yeah, we have for the first time since we've been asking this question, we have a majority, 53%, saying that they feel personally threatened. Their rights are personally threatened by the government. Now, this is mostly being led by a trend among Republicans, especially conservative Republicans. Among conservative Republicans, that percentage is 76%, but it's a really very powerful attitude. It has to do with worries on the right and in the middle as well, that the government is encroaching on them. Gun control is part of their worries. I think you go back to Obamacare, many people complaining, the government's telling me that I have to buy health insurance. They don't have the right to do this. So this issue of the power of government, the role of government is certainly part of that. Now, this is different than distrust in government. It's certainly part of it, but it's one particular element. It's
another strand. And you're saying, did I understand you to say it's independents as well as Republicans?
Right. Many of them are the independents who lean Republicans. The Democrats are less of this view. But if we went back to the Bush years, the Democrats were more inclined to say than the Republicans that the government personally threatened them. Now, they were worried about different things. They were worried about warrantless wiretaps and the loss of personal freedoms and the war against terrorism. But there's kind of a regime effect. But the public, both right and left, really are quite worried that the government is going to threaten what values and things that they hold.
And how has this changed over time since you've been polling on this question?
Well, it's been an up and down thing, and it relates to the things that are going on and the issues that are in play. Now,
and by the way, Andy, we're showing it. I think this is a trust in government question, which is that other question that I wanted to ask you about, and we're showing how that started out in the 1960s at a high level, and then
yeah, I mean, really what that chart shows is that distrust in government has been endemic since the end of the 1960s, the Vietnam post-Watergate era. It's largely been most people saying that they can't trust government. we've had a number of factors. Our studies show that trust in government falls when the economy is difficult and people don't think that government's effective in dealing with it. They fall at times of unpopular wars, Vietnam, Iraq. And now I think the tumble, and the concern here with government is gridlock. People are very concerned that government's not getting anywhere. I mean, two statistics that really stand out to me from this election. Only 25% have a favorable view of Congress. 90% of the people who ran for re-election got re-elected. And that's the source of the frustration.
So there's some disconnect there. And picking up on what Al Gore was saying a minute ago, that people, the way the system now works with so much money, with money having so much of an influence, it'll be interesting to see whether to what extent that affects people's views as well.
Well, I think that people are at the boiling point when it comes to we're not getting what we want out of Washington. Quote unquote, something's got to give somewhere along the line. Public patience is not endless, but the issue of gerrymandering, the issue of money, there are all of these other factors that complicate things.
Andy Kohut, who has been watching these questions for years and will continue to keep an eye on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
And that is the problem. It's the money. It's all about the money. It's the money itself, and the money then, of course, in politics. When we allow private individuals to create money out of nothing, then what do we expect? This is a natural and logical conclusion. It really is. Think about it. All right, so talking about the banks, let's give a little update of where we are. And it turns out that a new report exposes J.P. Morgan Chase as mostly a criminal enterprise. Gee, what a shock. We're all shocked here, aren't we? And the fact is, they're going to have this report. They're going to have a Senate Banking Committee. This was done by them. They're talking about the string of abuses and fraudulent actions that give fuel to fighting back against Chase. The trouble is, and I'm going to scroll down to this is the violations. Okay, these are the violations, and these are repeated. It says it's hard to summarize all of the documented instances in this report of J.P. Morgan Chase that they've been breaking the law, but here's a good shot. He's trying to keep up, and yet some of this reporter is learning just for the first time. I'm just going to read a few of them. You can look at the article and read the litany yourself. And again, it's no surprise to us, the ones of us that are looking at this and being exposed to this and fighting this corruption. But obviously money laundering for drug cartels, violations of the sanctions against all these countries, violations related to the Vatican Bank scandal, Commodities Exchange Act, failure to segregate customer funds, SEC enforcement actions for misrepresentations of collateralized debt obligations of mortgage-backed securities. Misrepresentations, all right, I take a little exception with that word. Forgery and falsehoods. Of course, the AG settlement, violations of the Attorney General settlement on foreclosure fraud, violations against the OCC, which is exactly what we keep talking about, violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act, fraudulent sale of unregistered securities, on and on and on, violations of the ERISA laws, municipal bond market manipulations. This is the point. It is a criminal enterprise, and this is what the banks will continue to do because they can just create money and buy off our government. That is probably part of the problem. Here's another article. J.P. Morgan hid the trades banned by Volcker. Okay, and this is the point. So here's the issue. We're exposing this. These online articles are exposing us. They're talking about it on the news. It's now a subject of discussion, but that is not the point. The point is, how do we stop this? How do we save our homes? How do we stop the fraud in foreclosure? We already know all the foreclosures are fraudulent. I've already been looking at the paperwork. And I personally am working really hard on that to develop a package that that will go along with that Attorney General presentation that I did earlier this week. And I plan to link that without the personal information of the 18 properties that I analyzed and make that available. And that is what we have to, what are we going to do about it? And so we've got some activists today telling us some things that they're doing about it. Some things are more effective than others. Some things we're just trying. We don't know how it's going to work, but we've got some really powerful people sharing with us today. And then one more quick thing before our first guest. The whale trades. Okay, they fraudulently lie to the planet about the interest rate. They make trades. They do all this stuff behind closed doors. And so, of course, now we've got a case history of derivative risks and abuses. And if you recall, it was a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the risk on derivatives. I believe a number being thrown around now is about 700 trillion that the central banksters have in derivatives. The 5 major banks here in this country, it's something like 230 trillion. And the gross domestic product of the entire planet is 65 trillion a year. The United States is 15 trillion. Those, I think, are the numbers. And so the point is, it's completely run amok. You now have the tail wagging the dog, and at some point it will blow up. How that's going to affect everybody, we don't know, but we can just keep doing what we're doing and trying to stop the fraud and trying to work to expose and at least keep our homes. So I'd like to welcome today our first guest. Let's see if he's on the line. I think so. Hey, Jed, are you on the line? Hello? Jed, are you on the line? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hi, Jed. Is that you?
That's me. Sorry, my pocket hit the mute button.
Oh, well, new technology. What can I say?
That's right. That's right. I still have a dumb phone.
I won't go where that comment's going to lead me. Okay, share with us, please, what you're doing to help fight back against the banks and expose their fraud. I'm just so admiring what you're doing. Please share with us today.
Well, I'm following the directions on your site pretty much. I'm just working down the foreclosure defense considerations and slowly gathering all the information, and it takes time and effort, and
yes.
Sitting down and really kind of reading the documents, and I like to understand stuff, so I'm reading through the laws and trying to make it as clear as possible. As we've worked on the statement of suspicious documents, it just seems to be getting better and better. And like your Attorney General, the presentation where you wrote everything on each document, I've done that on my documents now. So
good.
Everything that I'm sending to the press and to whomever will have on all the documents, circled, this is an impossible assignment, or they've already signed away their beneficial interest here. Now they're signing it to someone else there. Just trying to really lay it out for them so they don't have to think.
That's fabulous, Jed. And I know that you've really been really pushing on this, and I just so appreciate the effort. Now, have you actually finally gotten this to where you've actually sent it out to some media yet?
I gave it to John Sakowitz, who is the host of All About Money at our local public radio station.
Oh, good.
Yesterday, and I'm preparing my packet for Democracy Now!, but I ran out of ink.
Oh.
But our station is affiliated with Democracy Now!, and they come out a couple times a year, so he was going to talk directly to Amy Goodman about that. So it's pretty much ready. I've gotten all this other signatures put together. Just, these things take a lot more time than you expect. So
they do.
It seems like I'm doing it in chapters. One of the things, when Renee got that bond
yes.
from her Secretary of State notary complaint,
yes,
I've filed 2 notary complaints, and both have been refused, basically. And with those notary complaints, I've submitted copies of the other forged signatures And, on the second one, the notary didn't even fill in the name of who appeared before him. And so when they responded that they didn't feel it necessary to look further into the matter, I wrote another letter saying, how can you not look into this? It seems like anybody with a little bit of investigative sense would say that this at least deserves some sort of looking into. Maybe not a full-blown investigation into the guy's practices, but there's obviously something going on. We don't even know who appeared before him that day because he didn't write it down.
Exactly.
And so that was a little discouraging, but, it's not the end of the world.
Now, wasn't one of your notaries had an expired commission?
Yeah, that's the one with there's two Lawrence Stone signatures, and then on the same day she filed, I want to say the notice of default doesn't need to be notarized. Is that right?
Right.
And that signature is different. So I've got two different signatures out of three of hers on the same day, and they didn't feel like that was, they couldn't really look into him. But I followed up with the County of LA to get his journal entries. I was surprised. I did get journal entries back from the notary that didn't write who appeared before him, and as well as I had submitted to the Secretary of State her other signatures, because there's several other signatures of her.
Right.
And they don't have regular log books for these foreclosure mills. There's a slip that they sign in, and it just has my name, the document number, and then it's her stamped name, and then her same signature. So I'm trying to get a hold of her signature. There was no license number or anything.
Right.
So,
right. Basically, anybody could have made that up.
Like the slip was like a little 3x6 slip. It looked like a receipt. It didn't look like a page out of the log entry.
Now, could you send those to me? Could you scan them and email them? That would be real helpful if you can.
I think I have already.
Oh,
I can
okay.
Resend it to you.
Oh, I'll check because it does become a pretty massive project. Like you said, some of these things may not cost a lot in dollars because you're not hiring an attorney to represent you, but it will take time. It does take some effort. You have to track this stuff. You have to organize it. Follow up on a project over several days or weeks, and that is a challenge. I do agree.
Yeah, I've got all my friends pulling up all their documents, and my family, including ones that have lost homes already.
Good.
And they're starting to work through the process of analyzing their documents and
good.
Seeing the pooling servicing agreements and all of that. Occupy Mendocino. Yesterday was our county treasurer's open meeting with to the public. It was a roundtable meeting with the investors who manage part of the county's portfolio, and Occupy Mendocino showed up, and the investors were like, "Wow, we've never had anybody or a meeting with so many public people attending," and so we brought up the whole public banking and then ethical investing, because we're investing a lot in Wells Fargo and B of A and HSBC and Coca-Cola, and we're a non-GMO county, so they're saying, why are you investing in a company that just defeated Prop 37 to label GMOs? And this is not what the people want. And then we start talking about the public bank and how much money is getting bled out of our county, through interest and just through investing, and that we want to recycle it back through by exploring the eminent domain. And so we're really pushing forward in that aspect too.
That's fabulous. That is just fabulous.
Positive.
You guys are and I want everyone to understand that how many people, I'd say maybe 10 of you guys in Occupy Mendocino? 8 to 10, 12. When I was up there with you guys they had a meeting with 2 supervisors. I think there were a total of 13 of us. So if you subtract us, then, it's not that many people. And I'm going to show a video real soon about some folks down in LA. And again, I'm thinking maybe it's about 10 or 12 people. a few people can really make a big difference. You really can.
Really do, because they open the conversation up.
Absolutely. And it's enough so it's not just one crackpot, okay? They can't just write Jed off as he's just a crackpot and he just doesn't know what he's talking about. They've got several people, and when that happens, that's probably more than our elected officials have ever seen in one place addressing them directly about these issues.
And then these bankers, I mean, and they look like big bankers and, big heavy guys in suits. They had their social responsible investing was not doing alcohol and tobacco because they manage a lot of school districts' monies,
right.
And it's like, well, there's a lot of other places that you can do it, and they had never really heard of that, and they called Corporation Peoples, and at the end one of the Occupy women was like, we have voted to remove people as corporations or corporations as people in our county,
right.
And we do not believe that they are people, and
right.
You should know that about us, especially if you're investing our money.
Right.
And we were planting a lot of seeds that they had never really even thought about. And while they're from San Diego and a lot more conservative than up here, and he said, I may not agree with all of your opinions, but it's great to have a discussion. Exactly. I'm sure that they've never seen this type of reaction from the public getting involved. Exactly. and demanding something different from our tax assessor and how she's investing our county's money.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
That, I brought up to them that the paradigm that you're saying doesn't exist because, if you do socially responsible investing, it narrows the scope of who you can invest with. Right. Doesn't exist. I said, well, that's the paradigm that got us in this mess in the first place.
Exactly.
So we need to start inventing a new paradigm. Just
exactly.
like you and I told the DA investors up in our county that these crimes aren't your in-the-box normal crimes. It's being perpetrated at the county level, and,
right.
The culprits
That's
are out of the county, and our DA guys were saying, well, we can't get them. And it's like,
right.
We got to think out of the box because these are not your in-the-box crimes. They've already manipulated the system the way it is, so we've got to think out of the system to make it work. And every time I talk to attorneys, they are still in attorney mode where it's like, you need, these things on the internet are scams, these, fraudulent forged documents aren't going to do you any good, you just need to go file PK, you need to get yourself an attorney. And all they're thinking about is, where are they going to get their cut?
That's right. That's right. How am I going to survive? The attorney is thinking, I need the fee, so... sign up with me.
I emailed my bankruptcy attorney because I have, a retainer down. That's my last card to play.
Right.
And he was like, so Jed, what's the end game? What are you trying to get out of this? So I called him. I said, well, it's manyfold. Trying to delay the foreclosure, trying to avoid bankruptcy, trying to, make it so that, they'll come to the table. And I'm trying to help make it so that they stop doing this altogether. We need to stop and get injunctions.
Exactly.
Against these foreclosure mills. And we need to expose this corporate crime, this fraud that's going on. And that's the bigger cause.
And what did he say? What was his response?
Well, he was, wanting to know where I was at. And he was like, wow, it sounds like you know a lot more about this than I do. And I was like, well, I'm right in the middle of it. So
exactly.
I'm keep on learning.
Exactly.
But I wanted to also tell the listeners that, for people out there that are losing their homes that are farmers,
yes,
there's a special type of bankruptcy called a Chapter 12, and it's for farmers, and you have to have, been getting a majority of your income through farming for over a year, but it actually wipes out all of your underwater debt and forces the bank to basically give you a loan at today's rates, at today's value. And Chapter 13 and Chapter 7 don't do that. They basically restructure your back payments, and you have to pay it, make it back up over 5 years. And Chapter 12 is a very powerful tool for people out there that are farmers. And I put in a deposit for this guy, and it was 5 days before my foreclosure date, and I had filed those OCC complaints, and I put the deposit down. And as I was driving away from his office, the bank called me and said that the foreclosure sale was postponed indefinitely, and that was because of the OCC complaints.
Right, right.
So I've got this thing, I've got this Chapter 12 sitting back there knowing that I can bring them down to where I want to when the time is right. But, you know, I'm writing my qualified written request to the trustee, to U.S. National Bank Association, who's, you know, the beneficiary of the trust, asking them, why wasn't this transferred 6 years ago? I
Right.
want to know that you've been paying taxes, or see what type of, you know, filings you have been paying. You know, and I've done the same with B of A, saying, you know, how can you assign this and then substitute after you assigned it? So I'm actually asking directly to these institutions the questions that are being raised.
Oh, Jed, this is so fabulous. I'm taking notes actually right now. The chapter 12, I'd like to add that to my website. And then the key is, what's the definition of a farmer? Because we all want to be farmers, without a doubt.
You have to be deriving your income from you know, some sort of produce.
All right, so I'm going to explore that with you some more, without a doubt, because you're telling me that a Chapter 12 bankruptcy, the judge then is allowed to what is otherwise termed a cram down. They will set the value at current market with current interest rates.
Correct. Yep.
That's what everybody wants. Are you kidding?
It's court derived. You know, the court orders it.
Oh my goodness.
When the attorney files, you have 30 or 90 days to before you actually have to, like, come up with your plan. And then if your plan, like, I'm trying to buy time because I'm still getting my living lettuce business up and going.
Right.
But it is at the end of the 90 days, the trustee will look, and if something's not right, they can file for an extension. So essentially, you can get like 6 months' time before you actually have to start making those new payments. But for me, I would lose about $250,000 in debt and lower my payment by over half.
Right, right. I mean, this is what everybody wants. It's a no-brainer. Most people just want a loan modification. And what I'm hearing is that this might be a way that at least farmers could actually get a workable, true, and viable loan modification.
That's absolutely correct. It's the most powerful tool in the chest, actually, according to my attorney.
That is fabulous
and
to
a
share.
lot of the fees for the attorney, most of the fees are actually put into the bankruptcy. So I put a couple $1,000 deposit down, and, you know, he's charging me $6,000, but the other $4,000 is just put into, you know, a 5-year payback time. So
right.
it was very reasonable to me.
Right. Now, the other thing, before you go, we got to keep moving, but the other thing you talked about was working on getting us the addresses of the media. So,
Yeah.
and I think this is a great idea. Everybody watching, if we all send it to the same places, then those places are really going to get the brunt of, you know, hundreds or thousands of these owners' documents, suspicious statements. And so if you can send us addresses, I'll put up a special web page specifically of where to send these documents. That way we all know that we can expand the clout by hitting the same place over and over and over. We might make some real difference there.
The other thing is I'm printing up probably like 30, 40 doc pages for each media outlet, and I'm starting to think that maybe I should just email their story idea department, because, you know, you hear about a lot of these major, I don't know, news, I don't know what, the word's not coming to me at the moment, but like people send, you know, big exposures via email to these news people. It doesn't have to be like a written document.
Right.
Reporters are pretty hungry to get stuff. So if you send them information, they're going to look at it, and that might save just a lot of time and ink and printing and packaging and going down and getting a sent.
Exactly.
Right now, I'm still doing it the old way.
Well, and Jed, you know, your comment has spurred something that I'm working on right now. It's been my homework project, and that is on each one of these suspicious signatures. It happened to be on those 18 counties that I analyzed. For each one, I went through all the documents that have been sent, pulled out everything for each one, and I'm going to make what I would call a sample page of signatures, so that one printed page would be all the signatures on those documents. And so if we had the statement, which is 3 pages, the worksheet, which is 1 page, and then per property, so each person would only have one of those pages, that's 4 pages. And then if they had a page of just those signatures, because on the worksheet we've already typed in the titling on the documents, the bogus assignees and that kind of thing. So I'm thinking that we could have, a 5 or 6 page document that might not be quite so large, because I know that you were copying all of the pages of all the forged signatures, right?
Yeah, because it's like 22 pages of Lawrence Stone signatures, and it's the full document,
I know, and it keeps growing, and I apologize for that.
That's okay. I mean, I think the full document's probably better than, little blips of samples, but
for email, we could send them the links to all of them.
For the full document copy,
That's right.
or something.
That's right. Make one, scan it, you have the full thing, email it, but to send out 30 or 50 pages times however many places we send, that turns into quite a project.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I would like to throw out there real quick is, I'm asking these guys, can you show me that you've claimed money from my notice of default through the insurance claim? And I don't know the correct verbiage. I don't know if it's a credit default swap claim or if it's an actual insurance policy. But if anybody out there knows what are we actually looking for? What's the right way to ask for it? To get these companies to expose their documents or show us, like, yes, I've already gotten money for your house and I'm still foreclosing, that could be useful information further on.
That's right. That's right. Yes, we'll incorporate that. And also, I would really love to see us, if you haven't sent it to me, you may have, and I'll have to look through my emails. I apologize. The letter to like you said, you sent the letter to U.S. Bank as the trustee asking them why it's taken so long, why it wasn't, put into the trust, if you will, back when it should have been, and have they been paying their taxes and stuff like that. Anything that you've written, I'd appreciate that.
I sent you an email saying QWR request, and it's 3 different sets to each individual entity, because there's different questions I'm asking, hoping that, maybe Randy or Renee or Linda or someone out there can also just kind of go and make it stronger or more bulletproof, or if I'm add a couple questions, or if I'm asking them not with quite the right verbiage, if people know that, it would be nice to accumulate those into, QWR.
Exactly.
To be added.
Exactly. And I think Renee's online too, so we're going to ask her right now, and she may not know. We'll work on that next week, I promise. And thank you so much, Jed, for your pushing and leading and sharing with us what just literally a few people, a handful of people, 5 to 10 people, what difference you can make for everyone in your county. We just so appreciate your effort.
I thank you, and I'm not doing any leading here. I'm not doing any research. I'm still trying to build this business up. So I'm just following exactly what everyone else has contributed to you and what you've contributed. I think about it and ask some questions, but I'm not finding the new paths here. I'm just following. So
well, see, now, Jed, you sold yourself short, because you just told us that you have come up with new questions and new qualified written requests to all these different entities, and you want to make them stronger. So yes, you are helping lead. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I feel like I'm just following. So.
We're all just following each other.
I know. Pack mentality.
All right.
Thank you, TJ, for what you're doing. You really are amazing, and what you're doing is incredible.
Well, thank you. And I couldn't do it without anybody else. It's a group effort. I'm just so pleased that people are joining. Thank you so much, Jed.
All right. United we stand.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. Hey, Renee, this is CJ.
Hey, CJ.
Oh, good morning. And
Good morning.
I just got off with Jed. You've probably been listening, and I know you've been asking me about what bonding company, and in this particular case, he wasn't talking about the bonding company. He was talking about the Secretary of State. He sent his complaint to the Secretary of State, but the Secretary of State won't respond if the commission's been expired. Now, I haven't delved into the issues on the non-expired complaint, and I don't know enough to even talk about it, but he did not go to the bonding company. Now, what I wanted you to share today for sure, let's start there if you don't mind, is about your success by filing a complaint with the bonding company. Can you just start, why did you even think of doing that, and then what did you do, and then of course we know the result.
Got it. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Excuse my voice. I've had a horrible cold this week. Set me back a little bit.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. Anyhow, what happened was over the summer, I caught my second illegal fraud closure last year. And over the summer, I got to thinking, well, there's got to be some way to prove these documents aren't real and everything else. And that's when it started coming to fruition. I kept asking, well, how can they do this? And they kept saying, well, because they filed the documents. And I said, well, they filed documents, but they aren't real. And they say, well, it doesn't matter. The judge literally told me in court, when I stood in front of him and I said, Your Honor, these documents are not real. He said that, and this was in the eviction court, in the UD court. He told me unequivocally that wasn't his job. He said, all I look at is title. And if it's there, it's expected to be real. And I looked at him and I said, but it's not.
Exactly.
And he literally told me, Ms. Powers, everybody says that. Just looked at him and I said, then, Your Honor, maybe you should start listening. I went home and cried all the way home because I felt defeated at that point.
Yes.
But then I thought, you know what? There's the ticket. How do we prove that these documents aren't real if they just assume they are by being there? And that's what started the momentum. And then I started looking into the notaries, and I started talking to other people who said, yeah, this guy signed it, but that isn't even his signature. Look at all the robo-signatures.
Right.
And over the last 4 or 5 years, this had become very well known, but not discussed as in result-oriented. A lot of people are out there talking about saying, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong, but I have to tell you, thank you so much, CJ, for being a comrade with all of us, Jack, Chuck, Randy, Kimmy, all of us out there, Lorraine, Jed, who are doers.
I know.
And this has given us a platform to learn how to do. And so what happened was when you and I started talking about this, it was, well, what can we do to fix it? And you and I are both so much in that mode that I thought, well, I don't know, but I'm just going to throw it against the wall and do it. So I started Googling, and I found out by calling the county who the bonding company was that had relation to every notary that I could find within my documents.
Right.
I found that some counties give it to you over the phone. Some counties tell you to come in. Some counties will give it just by mail. Others tell you to talk to the Secretary of State. So again, all of this is pretty open to and dependent upon where you live in the county that you're in. Orange County, I called, and or not Orange County, but excuse me, Ventura County, I called, and they gave me information over the phone for John Sechrist.
And Renee, I just want to interject here. It just so depends on where the notaries are. You had California notaries, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
it depends on the county the notary has their license in.
So some of the documents...
you have to call that county. And I know Ken Johnson, when we spoke, Ken was going to be calling the AG because he had to mail the information. And I believe Ken, I may be wrong, but I believe Ken finally got it through the mail, or I think that was his best $7 spent.
Right.
But,
right. And see,
either way, you get the information.
And sometimes
the county will tell you how.
And sometimes it's Texas, and sometimes it's Nebraska, and sometimes it's Louisiana. And so
exactly.
I apologize. We do not know the answer yet for everything. So we're working on it. But in the meantime, if you're watching, check your documents, and And of course, Renee, again, this would be for non-expired notaries, right? Commissions
Oh,
that are
no,
not
no, no, no.
expired are all.
The notary bond company, it's not, even if they're expired, they have to honor the insurance on that document. If
Oh,
the bond
really?
has not been raked out yet, as far as given out, they still have, the bond still carries forward. You're still insured on that notary. When they
Oh, that's
they
great.
executed that document, if in fact the notary bond is still present, they should be paying on it.
Okay, so
AG, the Attorney General, will not look at the complaint because what they do is they're the ones that take the
commission away.
license away.
Right.
Notary company doesn't take the license. This is what's another interesting thing when I've spoken with them. I said, okay, now, we know this is fraud. Now we've shown this. Don't they lose their license? And it was very interesting. The girl says, no, they don't. That's what's odd. She says, I think that's kind of odd, too. And she said, our job is just to pay out the insurance. You have to do the Secretary of State or go to your state. They're the ones who pull their licenses.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty
So,
interesting.
All right, so let me just quickly summarize, if I hear you correctly. And that is that no matter if the commission is expired, if the commission is expired, then the Secretary of State won't do anything. And that's probably pretty true nationwide. But the bonding company is still on the hook for that.
Correct.
So-
Insured them at the time they signed your document. Just like your title insurance company.
Right.
And even
Right.
after you sell your home, you can still go
Right.
back to the title insurance company because it was insured at that time and you paid for it.
So if the commission is expired, then the person probably has to go to the Secretary of State for an oath signature to compare the signatures. They would have to go to the state or that county for a journal entry because they couldn't mail it to the notary anymore, correct?
Well, let me tell you what I did. What
Okay.
I did was, without knowing what to do,
Right.
just kind of flew by the seat of my pants.
Exactly.
I went online, filed the complaint, attached documents as proof. And when I say that, I mean I attached, there were 2 assignments on my home, both fraudulent. The first assignment was with an Afzal, who
Right.
I lost by 2 weeks getting his notary bond because 8 people were ahead of me.
Right.
So there was a lawsuit, or not a lawsuit, but a judgment because there was 8 people involved awarding that.
Right.
But in fact, his bond had been paid out. So that did prove that he was fraudulently notarizing documents.
Right.
But I attached that with the John Seacrest assignment because it also showed that the corporate assignment of deed of trust was a second one done. That one I highlighted on it what I found to be questionable, and through other Googling, I found other documents with his signature and then Nicole Kladendacher, who
Right.
had multiple signatures,
Right.
and showed that the timing, and attached the PSA and attached the prospectus, and showed how he was a corporate notary for Bank of America, called into question whether or not he even had equity position in the company at the time that he notarized that. I did send that on to them and asked them to look into whether he also had stock in the company, because if he did, and any of these notaries, if they do, then their notary would be in question because everything they do does have financial gain, whether it's a penny or 10 cents or a dollar.
That's right.
They have financial gain. They should not be notarizing any of these documents of which the company has hired them to do. But what happened was in mine, she then sent me, but all this was done by email. She emailed me the complaint form, of which I then filled out and noticed the email complaint and the date of the email complaint, and then had it notarized, and then I
Right.
scanned and sent it back to her.
Right.
When she received that, then she sent a letter in December that stated that they had looked into it, and that the only thing I had neglected to do was financial claim of what damages were.
Oh,
which was
right.
very simple because anyone who understands that the assignments are there to question who has a right to foreclose on you,
Exactly.
clearly laid that out and addressed the lawsuits with the investors and everyone else, showing her that the evidence of that assignment, had it not have been proven fraud, would be proved to take my title from me and steal my home.
That's
At
right.
which time, I have over $610,000 just in down payment and payoff of a second that were in question. And on
Exactly.
top of that, all the medical bills around the times of which I have been in the hospital fighting these and going to court when I've ended up in the hospital with 6 and 7 doctors around me because of my heart.
Right.
So I sent her my credit report showing the excessive doctor bills that I've had. I've sent her the information regarding my HUD-1, showing the down payment and showing the miscommunication in SPS trying to collect on something that showed paid already in January of 2009. So why are they trying to collect and steal my home?
Right.
And so all of that I put in, and they could not deny that because that is claim of what
Damages. Yeah.
the notary can do to you. They can steal your home, which in essence
Exactly.
steals every dime you've ever put into it,
Yes.
and your health, everything. So when people try to get too specific, I'm telling everybody, quit overthinking it. Keep
Yes.
it simple.
Yes.
If they say no, don't take no for an answer. No, how dare you say I haven't been harmed?
Exactly.
I'm going to
Exactly.
name you on my next doctor bill then because you're giving me blood
Exactly.
pressure through the roof.
Exactly.
You can't tell me no. It's
Exactly.
proven beyond. And the other thing was the man did not send in his response or his ledger page.
Didn't
This
respond.
is huge because when you are sending in a claim, say you got rear-ended by someone in a car,
Right.
and that person never denied that they hit you.
Right.
You get satisfaction of the claim.
Right.
You get satisfaction. So I made them recognize that he didn't respond. And the reason I am told, and I am opinionating this, so I'm opining here, folks, the reason these guys aren't responding to these notary companies is, first of all, they know they're not going to be held accountable for losing their license. And
Right.
second of all,
Right.
if they do respond, and they respond and it's noted that it was fraud, now they're on record. So if
Right.
they don't respond and they just go away, they end up having to pay the bond back, the bonding company, but now they can pretend that they didn't answer. Well, their
Exactly.
not answering is huge evidence to the fraud as well. They know what they've done. They know those ledger books were kept in office, not at these people's home or on their possession.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So, and I got the check. I sent you. CJ
Right.
has all of that.
Yes.
And I also want to say I found it interesting. There's a few people out there who've made reference to, well, where's the check? Where's the check? Prove to us you got it. And I find that really interesting that people would lash out as if I didn't show them a check. It wasn't proof that this is true. We're all fighting together in this.
I know.
And I sent
know.
CJ the check. She
I
can
know.
attest to the fact that she's seen it.
And-
Anyone out there who's going to attack me, a copy of anything.
Thank you, Renee. And I too have got.
We as fighters out there,
Yeah.
we're here to teach each other what we've learned, what we know.
Right.
If someone doesn't want to go out and do this work and wants others to continue sending them proof versus them going and getting their own proof, I
Right.
say to hell with you. You're not going to fight your own fight. Go ahead, get a handbasket because we're supposed to be helping each other. You don't get out there and expect everybody else to do the work and then you just sit there and benefit from it. Do it. And when you do it, like Jed did, you find more questions.
Exactly.
Questions further our efforts and our learning. If
Exactly.
we aren't all out there participating and just talking about it, how do we find out what is and isn't going to work for the next person? Things change.
I agree, Renee, and I do appreciate it's wonderful to have proof. And truly, after my notary complaint workshop, I got emails saying, "Oh, that's all bogus. You know, they never will look at it. They'll never adjudicate a notary, and you'll never get a bond payment." And I was pretty surprised. And of course, thankfully, I have proof. And I believe that so many people now doubt everyone. I started the show today. Here's the update, guys. 75% don't trust the federal government. Well, that's got to rub off. And there's so many claims on the internet, and everybody's saying this, that, and the other. People are struggling to know who to believe. And this is a major
Well,
problem.
don't forget, the other thing about believing is when you're doing these notary surety claims, these companies are attached to title companies, like Chicago Title. When I had a surety bond company that I had on Recon Trust documents that you and I, CJ, know are fraud.
Yeah.
And I'm using the F word now because I can, because we've proven on some of these documents they are fraud. Now we have to go into the court and get them removed, but that's another day's story. But anyhow, some of these bonding companies, you're getting a complete no. And I had one gal actually email me, which this just cracked me to the bones, made me even laugh. Not at her on the phone, but behind the scene, because she said, we know about robo-signing. We know about all the fraud. We know about all the lawsuits you're sending us. You can quit sending us the information. We already know about it. And I started laughing, and I sat, and before I responded, I responded, and I said, you know what? I so appreciate that you know everything about this, because then you know more than I do, which lends me to understand that you really get it, that this is fraud and this document is not real. So I'll be expecting to hear from your boss soon, and I did. And the boss called me. And then she put on the dog and pony show, and she tried to pretend she didn't know about the robo-signing and all. And I said, you know what? Can I email you some information? So I emailed her that email from her own employee. And I said, I get it. And it was Chicago Title they're affiliated with.
Yes.
So all of you hear Chicago Title, what do you think? So there you go. Merchants Bonding Company has been in business over 80 years. They're the company I worked with.
Yes.
John Secret.
Yes.
They were wonderful. They were honest. They were diligent. They didn't pass the blame. They didn't try to do anything funny.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe the other company did it because they're tied in with a title company that is one of the biggest crooks in all of this.
Right, absolutely. And I will add that it was Chicago Title Company that intentionally deleted off of these are now all electronic preliminary title report for one of my buyers. They deleted the cloud on that title. And on that particular case, the second foreclosed as if it was the first. And so the first still had rights that they didn't know about. And Chicago Title just didn't want to point that out, because if they had pointed that out, the property would be unsellable. So they just deleted it. And we found out afterwards because that particular buyer was an investor. So he fixed it up. The property was horrible and they fixed it up. And so then we resold it. And then when we got into escrow with the new buyer, First American Title Company said, I can't insure this. There's a cloud on the title. And we're going, what? So now we're pulling up the preliminary report from Chicago Title right next to the preliminary report from First American, and we see the difference. We see it's obvious that Chicago Title intentionally defrauded the buyer. And this is what the banks, title, and escrow companies are doing. They will do intentional fraud. It'll be years before some of these people discover that the properties that they bought have clouded titles and cannot be insured. This is the real dilemma. It's just fraud is a business model, and one of the reasons I am so absolutely dedicated to try to get this to stop. Boy, Renee, we just thank you for that trove of information. That was really great. We're going to have to move on. We've got some other people that have been doing some really good activism. I'd like that update. Please keep us posted of any other actions and activities that go.
I had Ron O'Donnell asking again why I wouldn't show the check to him. I'm just laughing because it's not that I'm not going to show it. I sent it to you, share on your website with all the documentation as noted. So I'm just not going to be sending it to every single person who wants a copy of it. They can see it on your show or on your site. So anyhow, there you go.
Perfect. Thanks, Renee. And by the way, just before we get the next person, I wanted to say that I have taken that particular check was a payment on the bond against John Sechrist. And so I delete personal information, and I've completely updated 20 different names with more disclosures, more documents, and I I will put that up with that particular notary, that name on the website.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you doing that.
Yep. Thank you. You're welcome. And I'm telling you, I'm going to continue to do that when I have a minute, because I'm now getting, so anybody, if you have an original notary oath signature, send it to me, because whenever, for example, Shannon Stieg is a notary, I do have that official signature, and I do have some journal entries. I've got journal entries, a couple of them for Lauren Stone, but I'd love to have some more so that we can start to show the differences in the journal entry signatures. Come on, talk about proof of fraud. That would be great. So I've got Malik Basurto, Lauren Stone, and Shannon Stieg for some original signatures. So if you have anything, if you send out for it, you get it back, just send me a copy. I will include that with that particular, all those documents with those signatures on that document. So for example, what I've done, and I haven't uploaded them yet, I will do that today. Let's take Shannon Stieg. So I start with her notary oath, and then she actually notarized Lauren Stone. So then with Lauren Stone, I include the journal entries for Lauren Stone, so that every packet is going to have the journal, any journal entry for the signer, and any notary oath for the notary, if possible. That way, all the signatures can be compared with originals right on that same packet. Anyway, I'm trying to make it easy to use.
CJ, and then people can just copy that and send with their own complaints. That's all they need to do, is just send all of that. Send as much as you can to show it.
And in fact, you can just send the link. You don't even have to copy it. You can just send the link. That way everybody can be shoved to the website.
Send the link and copy, because remember, these people get tons of documents.
Yeah.
If you bullet point everything that you want them to know, like they say, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you said.
Exactly, and make it real simple.
Point, and then give them the link, because then you've given them every opportunity, depending on what kind of thinker they are, to actually absorb the information.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Renee. We really appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Hi, this is CJ. Is this Lynn?
Yes, it is.
Oh, welcome to the show. And can you tell us what you've been doing? Tell us the updates you want to share with us today, and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm here out in New Jersey. I'm a homeowner that's been trying to fight my foreclosure for quite a while now. My debt got discharged inside of a bankruptcy Chapter 7.
Okay.
And they did discharge the whole bankruptcy. He abandoned the property, the trustee did, and also put the whole amount in the discharge. So I know Bank of America took the discharge and got whatever money they could.
Right.
But what I've been doing lately, I did email from Senator Warren from her site. She did respond back. She did state that at this time she's going to hand it over to the senior senator in my state, because that's the protocol and what they do.
And what did you email her about? What did you say?
Okay, I told her what was going on, that all the issues with Bank of America, that they're violating the OCC because I filed a complaint with them.
Yep.
They've never answered it.
Right.
The attorneys that were working the case never answered it.
Right.
I told her what was going on, that I have forged documents. I have a complaint that was filed by non-attorneys. There was a lawsuit in Pennsylvania in regards to that,
Right.
which was buried.
Right.
And I just let her know that the documents, they did an assignment in my bankruptcy to get relief from stay, but they never filed it.
Right. Did she seem
And
surprised? Did you actually talk to her, or did you get an email back?
I just got an email back.
Email back. Did
I still encourage people to email her, because
absolutely.
the more the merrier, and she's got to know that there's a lot of us out here. We can get that out.
Right, and I think you sent me her email address, and I apologize, I haven't even done anything with it yet. I'm going to try to get that up on the website so people can actually email better.
And I'll forward the email she sent me to you.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay.
And the other thing I did was in the meantime, I had a complaint in with my senator, Menendez, here in New Jersey, and Bank of America did respond, but it's full of lies, and basically it threw it all back on me that they did everything they were supposed to do, which
Right.
is not true, because when I first started to go in default, I contacted them to do a loan modification.
Right.
And they told me, oh, well, we can do it until you get rid of all your debt.
Right. Right.
And then we tried to talk to a money manager. We went back to Bank of America, and they said, well, no, you're going to have to find a way. And in other words, we have to claim bankruptcy. So we did.
Right.
So they
Right.
put in the stay. Nothing until 6 months later, when the non-attorneys put in the complaint, and they also filed a new assignment. And all these assignments kept going back to Allied Home Mortgage.
Right.
Now, just to move this along a little bit, Bank of America, they're doing a little sneaky thing here. I have a new servicer. But now,
Yes.
with that, I guess, things might have gotten tied up with mine. I haven't even put in an appeal yet. I think what they're trying to do is start everything all over again, and maybe to negate the illegal complaint that was done,
Right.
trying to override that, because now I get an order from Select Portfolio that they're going to be foreclosing on me if I don't answer in 30 days.
Right.
And we can't
Right.
do it. I'm already in foreclosure. How can that... It's just crazy.
Okay, now there's a couple of things I sort of heard you saying, and one is one of the fears that others have already talked about, and that is if we make too big of a stink, they're going to rescind all those documents that we have proof of forgery on, and they're going to file new ones, and we'll start that game over again. That may be something. And the other thing that I hear that might be happening, it could be that, different entities are trying to foreclose, which has actually happened numerous times, probably way more than we know, because the media won't talk about it. And that is because it was so screwed up and nobody really owns the note. They all think they do. Like, for example, I read somewhere where the actual loan, that note for that, like someone signing, like Lynn or me or somebody signing, actually was put into 23 different mortgage-backed securities. So that's 23 different trustees who might think that they should have that right to foreclose. So it's not really a stretch to think that you might have more and more banks trying to foreclose on the same property. It's truly a mess.
And I did an audit on my loan. It's in
Okay.
29 different trusts. 7 have been paid off. Who knows the status of it today? Also,
Exactly.
I have 2 different loan numbers
Right.
now because Select gave me a new number, and I don't know. None of them have real power because none of them. They're not the original mortgage, and you have to go by that. And
No,
with
you
my
don't.
case, Mellon, when they did the complaint, they used all of Mellon's information, but used the Plano, Texas address,
Right.
which is Bank of America, which used to be Countrywide.
Right.
The interesting thing now is I get this notice from Select Portfolio, and it's stating the Bank of New York Mellon with the New York address. When I called Bank of Mellon to find out where they did the foreclosures on, they said, we have nothing to do
Now,
with that.
exactly.
And that is all handled through the servicer, and now all of a sudden they're using Bank of New York Mellon's
Right.
address in New York. And I also have it in writing because I sent them an email.
Right. Right. And see, Lynn, this is something else that has triggered what Jed was talking about earlier today. And that is, since the servicers are making impossible beneficiaries with all of these mortgage-backed security trustees, then he's writing them a letter. Now, see, you called. I have another client that called. They're getting, or emailing, or getting emails back and forth. But I really think, and so everyone viewing, help us out here. Let's put a qualified written request together for that specific information. Force them to respond. If they're going to be the owner of the note, then they need to respond and tell us the information that we request. So let's draft those, let's work on those and come up with something better. That way Lynn and everybody else can actually, copy that letter down, boilerplate, fill in their own specifics with the two loan numbers, however many loan numbers you've got, and send them out to these entities.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
On the qualified written request,
Yeah.
I was the one that started a long time ago telling everybody, look at the Patriot Act. Because I was an insurance agent and I had to study the Patriot Act. I had to pass a test every year. I knew about the Patriot Act. What they're doing with all this stuff is in violation of the Patriot Act.
Can you send me that information?
I have actually a copy of the qualified written request using the Patriot Act.
Oh, please send
It's
it.
a powerful tool, and I can do information about the Patriot Act. I can give you a really rundown on the area. I have all this done because they're in violation of it. And they are laundering money.
Right.
And that was one thing we had to be very careful of in insurance.
Right.
We started to have to check IDs. We had to be very careful.
Right.
Very suspicious that they were trying to turn the policy over to collect the money because now it's clean money.
Right.
This is what I was the one that started waking some other groups up to this fact about the Patriot Act.
Okay, so here's a good update, guys. Now we've got the Patriot Act, which I don't think any one of us have ever spoken about before. So Lynn, please send us what you've got. Let's start this conversation, and we'll take it to, probably to next week, where we can actually look at this, discuss it, and learn how to use it better for us. If you don't mind, if we can work on
over
it.
the weekend, and I will get it to you by early Monday morning or Sunday sometime. I will get it to you.
That's fabulous, and truly, it's not quite that urgent. I've already been booked through the weekend on all of my own homework projects, but really,
I'm sure you'll have it by next week, though.
Thank you. That's going to be on the docket here. We're going to talk more about MERS, particularly next week, and the Patriot Act. I'm making notes right now, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Lynn. See, this is what's so powerful. Okay, thank you. This is what's so powerful about sharing live. She hasn't talked about that yet. This is fabulous. Okay, we've got another activist that I've asked to share what she did yesterday. Susan, is this Susan?
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. Please tell everybody what happened yesterday.
Well, I'd be happy to. As you know, we have a stay, which is temporary. I understand that, so I'm still aligning my ducks. I was happened to read the paper yesterday, and on the foreclosure page, which I'm sure every paper has,
Yes.
there was listed the typical neighborhood foreclosures, and I came across the name of an agent that I had met 2 years ago in an open house, and she was so nice, and her name just kind of stuck out at me as thinking, oh my gosh, this is a wonderful young woman with a beautiful family, and here they are 2 weeks away from sale date. And I went, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Exactly.
So I searched her number out, did end up contacting her, and she was in a state of shock. I mean, she was catatonic, basically. That was my interpretation of her emotional demeanor. And I just said, I haven't talked to her. I don't know you, but it's like, this is wrong. I know this is wrong. I can prove it's wrong.
Exactly.
99% sure there's fake and forgery on your documents.
Right.
Let's go over to the recorder's office and I'll show you. And her mouth dropped. Anyway, as it turned out, her husband was over near the recorder's office. I met him over there. We went through his docs, and sure enough, there's the original note, then a substitution of trustee by this Rick, who, I don't know what his last name is, but it's a fake and forged from Index in Texas.
Right.
And then the notice of default, and then the sale thing. And those were the 4 documents on her record.
Right.
No transfers, nothing legal.
Right.
The original note. And I asked one of the assistants, the administrative assistants there at the recorder's do behind the counter is exactly the same thing that you do out here.
Right.
If it's in there, it would show up. You can do it
Right.
by the document number, which I have this paper there, and she put in the document number, and the same information came up again. So I was very thorough in searching that. There were no hidden documents. There are documents attached to this property that were filed under a different component.
Right.
And no, we verified that. And so the husband is sitting there with his mouth open. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, they're stealing your house is what I mean.
Exactly.
This signature is a forgery, and the notary is a forgery, and the attorney, in fact, is a made-up title, and I will prove it to you. And he said, what do you mean? And then I showed him my documents. I pulled my documents, which I'm very
Right.
familiar with now.
Right.
And I said, here you go. This is Lauren Stone. I have 15 other signatures, and it's
Exactly.
fake.
Right.
And his mouth dropped open.
Right.
And anyway, at the end of the day, I said, you don't have time to spin your wheels on this, so what do you want to do? They had already spoken to a BK attorney. I took them right around the corner to mine. They ended up having a meeting. What the outcome of that is, I don't know. It's not my business to know.
Right.
But it is certainly a surefire way to stop the immediate crisis.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
in the meantime, they can figure out which tack they want to take. But I'm gonna. She called me back later that night and thanked me profusely because
Yes.
what happened was just as I experienced when I came upon your website, CJ. It's a breath of hope.
Yes.
Totally changes your whole posture, your whole outlook. It's giving them a lifeline, a sense of hope, a direction.
It might be worth fighting for. And maybe we have some
Absolutely
direction.
is.
Yes.
And I told him, he said, why are you doing this? And I said, because it's wrong. And we all
Exactly.
know, by the time we're in kindergarten, we know right from wrong. And this is
Exactly.
wrong on a colossal level.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody has foreclosure notices in their local paper. It's
Exactly.
your neighborhood. This is your community. Look through them. Reach out. There's another one in there from Recon Trust from another town. I don't know the lady, but I'm certainly going to call her. I'm going to do everything I can to contact her.
Good for you. Good for
Hey,
you.
you know what? Recon Trust, let's see who's on your thing. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
Exactly. In fact, and this is what has led me to now I feel we have enough solutions to really make a difference with the strategies, with the qualified written request letters, the OCC complaints. We're moving as soon as possible into some other, even perhaps better delay and stay or stalemate techniques. That's what we're looking for, is how do you stalemate this? Because once you stalemate the foreclosure, then you can spend some time trying to figure out how you can actually resolve the issue, but at least you're not an immediate threat of losing the house. And
Right. Step one is,
Yep.
is stop the immediate crisis.
Exactly. And
Two is let's form a game plan. What works best for your situation? What
Exactly.
ammo do you have against them? And
Exactly.
he asked me questions. I mean, he was a pretty quick learner. I mean, he was shell-shocked, but he was a pretty
Yes.
quick learner.
yes,
And he said, what do you mean you have 4 children? And I said, as soon as I get my ducks in a row, we're going to be in court, and my house is either going to get on the terms and conditions of my choosing, or I'm going to get it free and clear, because I'm not going down without a fight.
right,
I'm
exactly.
just sorry, you poked the bear, big boy.
And the fact that you can actually do that and think positively about it, whether you win or not, is just a shock to a lot of people. Most people in this country feel like there's nothing they can do. The bank said it, they've done it.
I told this gentleman
Yeah.
that I had a talk with Chad Elrod from CFLA, who happened to be the company that did my forensic audit. You don't necessarily need to have a forensic audit, depending upon what your strategy is. That's why you
Right.
have to have a game plan to know what direction you're going to go,
Right.
and then have your ammo lined up for that end result. You don't necessarily have to have a audit, but again, I told him that I had a talk with both Joe Esquivel and Chad Elrod. Both of them have really wonderful companies that provide that
Yes.
service. Both of them gave me very pertinent information Chad said, it's a numbers game to the bank. 95% of the people who get notices of default know they haven't paid their mortgage, and they feel that they deserve this in some level. And those were not his words per se, but that's the gist of it.
Exactly.
They roll over. They
That's
just
right.
fold.
That's right.
Oh, no, I mean, it's an emotional assault, and people just
Yeah.
absorb it, and they don't know what to do. And that's how the banks steal the homes. He said it's a numbers game with the banks. They know 95% of people will do nothing.
Exactly.
And the 5% that fight back, that's when they'll talk loan mod.
Right.
The first game plan is come back at you with the offer of a loan mod.
Right.
Well, I told this gentleman, they can talk loan mod all they want. They don't owe my note.
Exactly.
That now. So they can babble all they want until I hear something I want to hear. I'm not playing their game.
Exactly, and I want to say here one more time, because I'm going to say it as many times as I can think of when it comes up in our live stream and seems appropriate in the conversation, and that is everybody, please remember, notices of default never expire. They never expire. They have to be either removed or rescinded. And so what happens, people go into a loan mod, they get a loan mod, but they already had a notice of default, and that servicer, that bankster understands what you don't get, and that is no matter what you do and what you pay and how long it's been, if that notice of default is still sitting there, they can file a notice of sale, they can illegally not even let you know, and they can take that house in 21 days in a deed of trust state, and that is the point. So if you get a loan modification, if you actually feel like this is what's best for you in your situation and you need to move forward with that, please demand that upon signing they rescind the notice of default. In fact, insist they rescind the notice of default before you sign, because otherwise they'll do exactly to you what they've done to thousands, hundreds of thousands of others, and that is they take the money and then they take the house too.
CJ, I want to interject here that last year Bank of America changed their policy of dual tracking, and dual tracking means that they talk to you about doing a loan mod at the same time that they're processed on another venue, another arm of their agency. They will then process the foreclosure.
Right.
So that's dual tracking. They go down both lanes at the same time.
Right.
They tell you one way, they're going to do a loan mod, and they have somebody in one office working with you on that, and they have another office that's actively going forward the foreclosure process.
Exactly. And they can
Last
still...
year they made an announcement that they were going to stop doing that practice. Well, just a month ago, they broadcast out that they're reinstating that policy.
Of course.
So that's Bank of America, and I'm sure the other banks are doing the same thing as well.
Exactly. In fact, the only way I know that's actually in California that's illegal, although they can still do it, and it's up to the owner to have to fight back, and that is to dual track if you're in a loan modification process. That's against the law. They must stop that. That's how our statutes now read. The House and Senate passed that last year. It took effect January 1. The trouble is, if they still do it, it's up to you to have to go to court to make them stop. And the second thing is, they definitely now have removed any plans to postpone an auction in a short sale. So a lot of times, like last year, people found it an effective technique to try to sell short, and the auction would get postponed. Not only would the auction be postponed, but the owner, the seller, the person losing the house, would be given some cash for keys. Half of money is money to move out, HAFA. And so right now, Bank of America's policy is to not postpone the auctions, is to keep the foreclosure process moving forward. Well, you try to do a short sale or not, they don't really care, because everybody involved in that does that for free. They all put all their time and effort into it for free in hopes of getting a commission, and that's both both agents, plus, if there are two, plus the title company. They all do this on the come, hoping that they get paid. The bank, we know, is getting paid because every monthly delay builds their fees. And when they foreclose, they get paid. So they don't care. They don't care about the people. They don't care at all. And I believe that that policy is going to ruin more agents. It's going to ruin more owners. It's going to be a horrible surprise to thousands and thousands of people across this nation. I believe it's completely unacceptable, and we just have to keep moving to try to stop the foreclosure machines. Well, Susan, we really thank you for your efforts and stepping up. I was just so impressed yesterday. She's emailing me saying, I'm running to this neighbor that I know, this friend, this agent I met who's obviously really nice. They're losing their home, and like she said, they're in shock. They're shell-shocked. They don't know where to turn. They don't know who to trust. And so it's up to us to spread this out to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, Susan. We appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I just encourage everyone, open your paper, read the foreclosures, and reach out to those people that you may or may not know, but
Absolutely.
that are in your neighborhood.
Absolutely.
I mean, it has to be the buddy system at first for it to spread.
Exactly, exactly. And starting at home is the best way to change the world. That's what I've been told. So I'm working on it too. Thanks, Susan.
Good. Absolutely.
And I know we've run long, but I wanted to just share a few more things. There are just so many updates and important things, and I've just been so excited about what we've heard. One of the things that I have personally done here in Sonoma County now is send out another 383 letters, because she's looking at the paper and seeing who these are. I can, in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona, I can send you addresses of everybody facing foreclosure auction right now. So I follow my own advice. I took those addresses to Holmes. These are homeowners, homes and condos, because those are where the mega banks are. And I have now sent out, we've printed flyers, a color flyer on the front for Sonoma County, my letter to homeowners on the back. We've printed the envelopes. I want to just give so much thanks to my staff, Gail, and my husband, Dean. They've done the majority of the work on that, and it takes time. It does take time. It's cost some money. We're paying for the flyers, paying for the envelopes, and paying for the postage. And yet I feel that it's my donation. It's what we can do to try to reach out to everyone in this county facing foreclosure auction. And as they read this information, we've already had people contacting us saying, you know, I got your letter and it was obviously different. You're not trying to sell me something. And so I've taken a look at your website, and what do you mean an OCC complaint? And so as we build this effort amongst the owners, it's the owners, this is Home Owners for Justice, that is going to be the power behind our activism efforts. Now, I just wanted to share with you briefly what Occupy Santa Cruz is doing. They have suggested some powerful links to letters. They would like the Homeowner for Justice share page to step it up a bit. So I'm going to step it up a bit and include the promotional email. She sent me some emails. This is Jerry. She's going to share with us next week personally. But and they've got a community TV piece they've put together, but it's not yet public. But she did send me their 90-second radio ad, and I just really want to play that. I'm going to link it up to the website, and I'm going to also link the text, because then anybody can really pretty simply make this kind of an ad put together and change the words, you know, to fit your community better. And also, I've asked her, how did you get the radio station that's going to commit to play this? I don't know yet. So when I know, we'll find out. But you've got to hear what they're saying.
KUSP presents First Person Singular. Opinions expressed are those of the commentator. Jerry Bodemark gives a foreclosure update.
The media would have us believe that the foreclosure crisis is behind us. I do not believe it. Since 2006, the U.S. has had nearly 14 million foreclosures. Just in California alone, there are 2 million underwater loans, including 16% of mortgages in Santa Cruz County, where we have about 12 home auctions every day. The ongoing fraud by the banks is truly unbelievable. Forgery, fake documents, destruction of our property records, and ruination of our real estate market. Just think about the horrific financial, emotional, and physical harm to individuals and families. I Googled foreclosure suicide and got over 2 million links. Meanwhile, the banks get bailed out and their toxic loans bought up by the Fed's QE3 program to the tune of 40 billion taxpayer dollars every month. This crisis, though easily unseen, lies at the heart of corporate and big money rule and clearly reveals the overwhelming corruption infecting all areas of our society. That is why I listen to a free online training with experts from around the country. CJ Holmes of Homeowners for Justice has started this daily live stream to educate people about the truth of this grand theft and what we can do about it. Go to hofj.org, click on live stream, and scroll down to any of the shows. As more of us learn the truth, we can together stop the corruption and hold banks accountable.
Jerry Bodemar is a local activist. This program was produced by Matilda Rand.
I want to thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Occupy Santa Cruz, and thank you, everybody around the country, for every time you say to somebody else, you know they're stealing the homes because the paperwork is fraudulent. And any ideas, every ideas, and of course, today we even got new ideas. We are going to keep pushing and keep moving on until we stop the foreclosure machine. Thank you so much for an Update Friday. We're going to call a halt. We could go on, and we'll just bring you updates as they happen next week, plus some new topics coming along. Any ideas, please don't hesitate to share them. Thank you. Signing off for this week. We'll talk to you next week.